Open Roads remembers how something was constructed. For complex designs, it remembers all the steps and geometry that were used along the way. If you're working with a complex design by someone else, when you try to modify the design, you may get unexpected results if you don't know the underlying dependencies that exist. Here's a parking lot. How was it constructed? How are some elements dependent on others? Using a combination of attribute feedback and the Explorer, we can investigate those dependencies. So let's take a look at this island here. Using the attribute feedback, we find that it's named island median 3, and its feature definition is C-road-curb gutter flow line. So back in the Explorer, let's find that feature definition category and then find island median 3. So under linear geometry, we have the various feature definitions. And here's the one we're looking for, C-road, curb gutter, flow line. I expand that out. I find the complex elements that have been assigned that feature definition. And so here's the one we're looking for. And I click on that one, and then it highlights in the plan view. This is a complex element because it has been built from a number of different geometry elements, as you can see here. So let's expand that tree out and see what's inside. And here we are. This complex element, this island, is built from a series of intervals, which are the straight lines here that are leftovers from previous constructions or previous base geometry, as Bentley calls them, and fillets of those intervals. So we have an interval here, an interval here, and a fillet. And so these intervals plus fillets all have been complexed together to create this entire complex element called island median 3. So let's take a look at these. Let's look specifically at complex element island 27 interval and open that up and see what it's dependent on. When we open that up, it gives us a list of what that element is dependent on. So you open that up and then highlight that. We find that it's dependent on a complex element called island control 10. When we click on that, that control highlights in the view, and that is the underlying base geometry that was created from which this interval was created. Open Roads does not lose that geometry. It's still there. It's not visible, but it's there. Let's find out what that's dependent on. We'll open it up again. That's dependent on this base geometry. So this was drawn and then offset to create this one. And you can keep going with this, and we will find out that that depends on that, which depends on that, and we just keep this process going. And so what we see is that these have been created by successive offsets, and we'll just keep following this down. We're going back in time to see how this parking lot was actually constructed. And eventually what we find is that this parking lot started off as an offset from the roadway center line. So that is an example of the kind of investigations that you can do using the Explorer to understand all the various underlying base geometry and dependencies, also called civil rules, that exist in a design, so that you can understand how any edits that you're going to do may end up affecting the result.